my name is Nikki. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you haven't been on my channel before, welcome, hello, nice to meet you. You can subscribe down below. And I haven't been on here in a really long time, but I really miss making videos, so I wanted to make one again. So I decided to make a makeup tutorial on this look that I'm wearing here. It's just a really easy everyday look. I just really like some of the tones in the new palettes I got for Christmas. I got the Tartist Pro palette and also the Lorac Pro. Both beautiful. And so yeah, I decided I want to kind of combine those in a video today so you guys can maybe get some tips and try out a new look. So yeah, if you want to see how I created this look that I'm wearing, just keep on watching. Alright guys, so to start out, I'm just going to be pinning my hair back and getting my bangs out of my face. And then to prime, I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever Professional Step 1 Skin Equalizer. And I just use that to smooth out any pores and try to even the skin tone a little bit and prime my face for the foundation. For foundation, I use the NARS Sheer Glow in the shade Light 3 Gobi. And I use that with a small beauty blender and just dab it on my face. I've only been using a little bit because my skin has been pretty clear, but this helps to just even out all the skin tone and everything and create a nice base for the makeup. For concealer, I'm going to be using the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Eraser, and it's in the shade Light Pale. This concealer is the best one I've found so far in terms of coverage because it's really light and it doesn't look like you're wearing a ton of makeup, but it definitely provides a lot of coverage, so I'm a big fan of that. And again, I'm just using a small beauty blender to blend this in. I prefer using a small one for concealer just because I find it's more precise. So for my brows, I'm using the Milani Easy Brow Automatic Pencil. Mine is in the shade Dark Brown. This is pretty cheap, you can get it at any drugstore, and it's one of my favorite ones that I've found so far. So now that I've brushed through my brows, I'm going to start filling them in. I like to fill in the tail first and just make that a little darker and stronger and really make sure that's a nice shape. And then I'll move to the inner corners and I fill that in a lot lighter just because that tends to look a bit more natural. And yes, I'm aware these look ridiculously dark right now, but trust me, once I do the rest of my makeup, you won't even be able to notice how dark they are. So here I'm moving on to the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer, but this time in clear. And I just use this as a little bit of a highlight, and then I also use it to prime my eyelids for eyeshadow. And I'm using a Real Techniques brush to blend that in on my eyes, and then I'll be going back to my beauty blender to blend it in everywhere else. So now I'm taking my Laura Mercier translucent powder and I'm using that with a Real Techniques powder brush, and I'm just going to be using that to set all of my concealer everywhere and the highlight concealer and foundation, everything like that. So to start off with the eyes, I'm going to be using the Lorac Pro palette, and I'm going to be using the shade Terracotta, which is like an orangey yellow, and it's so pretty. I'm like obsessed with this one. Basically, I'm using this shade as a transition shade, so I'm using that on the outer corner in the crease, and then I'll be adding it to the inner corner after I do that. So I'm going to be using my Sephora Pro Blending Brush just to blend out that transition shade. I'm going to be using that a lot throughout the video just because this really helps make all of the colors seamless and makes it so there's no hard lines or anything like that. Then moving on to the Tartist Pro palette by Tarte. This is my favorite palette right now. I'm literally so obsessed with it. I'm going to be starting off with the shade Whimsy, which is like a reddish brown. And I'm going to be using that in the outer corner and also in the crease and also in the inner corner, and this is creating a sort of halo eye. So once again, I'm back to that Sephora blending brush, just making sure the colors really look seamless and cohesive, and honestly, there can never be enough blending, guys. Just keep on blending. And now moving on to the Modern Renaissance palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills, I'm going to be using the shade Primavera, which is like a gold shimmery shade, and I'm just going to be using that in the center of my eyelids. And then just to darken up the outer corners, I'm going back to my Tarte Pro palette and using an IT Cosmetics crease brush and using the shade Edgy, which is just a dark brown. And once again, just blending all of that out before I move back to my Modern Renaissance palette using the shade Tempera, which is like a creamy white to highlight my brow bone. And I also use the shade Vermeer, which is like a glittery pink to highlight my brow bone on both sides. And for under eye concealer, I'm going back to my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in the shade Clear, just because that's a lighter shade and it helps highlight a little bit. And I'm just using that again with a small beauty blender. And then to set that, I'm using my Laura Mercier translucent powder again with the same Real Techniques powder brush, just making sure it's all going to stay put and that it won't crease. Then for under my eyes, I'm going to be basically reusing everything I used before, so I'm using that shade from Lorac Pro and putting that on my lower lash line, as well as that reddish brown, using that again, and then with the dark brown, I'm just going to use that on the very outer corner, just darkening it up a little bit. And once that's all blended out, I'm going to be going back to my Modern Renaissance palette with the shade Vermeer again and using that as an inner corner highlight. Then I'm going to be using this Cream Coal eyeliner by Maybelline in the shade Midnight Brown, and I'm going to be using that in my tight line just to darken up my eyes. And then I'm going to be using an eyelash curler to curl my eyelashes to get them ready for mascara. For mascara, I'm using this one called Pixie by Petra, and it is in the shade Fiber Black. This one is really good with lengthening and adds a lot of volume to your lashes, which I really love, so I've been using this every day. And then this is totally optional, but I prefer a lot of volume in my lashes, so I'm going to go back in with the Maybelline Lash Sensational Mascara. And then for bronzer, I'm going to be using my favorite bronzer, which is the Smashbox one, and this one is in Deep Matte, and I'm going to be using that with an IT Cosmetics brush. And I prefer my bronzer to be really dark, but that's up to you. You can kind of do whatever you want. So then I'm using a big powder brush by B&H Cosmetics just to blend it all out and make sure everything looks seamless. And then I'm using a smaller brush also by B&H Cosmetics for my nose contour. I'm using the same bronzer for this, and basically I just create two small lines on each side of my nose, and then I use a slightly bigger brush also by B&H just to blend all of that out. And I forgot to show you, but for contour, I'm using the Too Faced Chocolate Soulé bronzer just because that's pretty dark on me. And I use that on my cheekbones and also my jawline just to darken it up a little bit. And I'm using a B&H brush for that as well. For blush, I'm going to be using this NARS one. I think it's pronounced Gulu, and I'm pretty sure this might be limited edition. I'm not totally sure, but I love it. And I'm using a Sephora blush brush for that. And then I'm going to be going in with my Smashbox LA Lights blendable lip and cheek color, and I just apply that on my cheekbones for highlight, and I'm obsessed with this highlighter. This is like the best one ever. I mean, look at that glow right now, guys. I mean, not gonna lie, I'm like always feeling myself once I put on my highlighter. Then I'm using my Laura Geller highlighter in the shade Charming Pink, and it's the Baked Gelato Swirl Illuminator, and I just like to use it on top because it makes it even more glowy, and I use a Sephora fan brush to apply that. Then last but not least, to finish all of that off, I'm going to be using the Urban Decay De-Slick Makeup Setting Spray with oil control, and that is just going to make sure that the makeup stays in place all day long and also controls oil and makes sure none of my makeup gets smeared around throughout the day. So this is the finished look, guys. I hope you guys found that enjoyable, and if you try it out, please let me know. I'd love to see pictures and things like that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! It's always gonna take time.